Welcome. It is Haberman and Middlekoff. I'm Guy. That's John. And this is our show, sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka. We are live on YouTube or on YouTube whenever you want us to be. If you're watching us on YouTube, great. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. We appreciate it. Half of you watching this are not subscribed. Or you're listening to this on a podcast. If you haven't, check out the podcast down in the description below. If you're listening to the pod, great to have you in audio. What's up?
Que paso?
How are you? How have you been following the 49ers quarterback competition of Tuesday, August 1st, John?
I try to stay off the interwebs with 49er stuff during practice because I don't. It's just, it can really jade the way you're thinking.
Yeah.
The updates, credibility of them, depending on who you get them from. Listen, I like this guy a lot. Big supporter of him. This is not necessarily reaction to anything he tweets, but aren't there rules about tweeting from the practice field?
Because
David Lombardi sure pushes the envelope. I'll tell you that.
You mean in terms of the last I heard, I'm never there for the rules seminar.
Again, I like Lombardi, but it's like I'm watching these. I'm like, they used to not let me tweet. You're tweeting.
I remember last year, maybe during OTAs, at one time I wanted to tweet something, and I walked to the fence and stuck my phone just outside the fence line and hit send. So I don't know if those rules still exist, but why did he send some?
I just say Lombardi's consistently tweeting during practice. Nothing crazy. I mean, I follow what he tweets. Like I'm pro his information. I feel comfortable. But I always think God, for a Stanford guy, this guy fucking pushes the envelope.
I mean, you're allowed in the window to do it. You just have to not be on the field. So you have to walk out to the fence line. I think those were the old rules. Again, I'm never there during the seminar.
Yeah. I know the times. I know I'll just get one at 11:45. I'm like, this ain't the window, and he's rattling off stuff.
Yeah.
Now maybe a fight breaks out. It's all no holds bar. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to check in on that. Wednesday is an off day for the Niners, but Thursday. Did you see the fires in Southern Nevada raging, John? I hope they were able to get those suckers under. Get those flames. Don't want the smoke getting up to what is it? Carson County? What's the county?
Will Clark County.
Will Clark County, yeah.
We got that thing being moved to Levi's written all over it. And Mark Davis sharing at stadium with the 49ers. What was supposed to happen years ago coming to fruition.
I saw Greg Papa today because I saw him in London. I went on the show. And Papa said to me, when am I coming back on the podcast? When are you guys going to have me back? I said, anytime.
Is he going to Vegas?
I said, you going to Vegas? He said, yeah. I said, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm trying to do the show from there, but they're telling me there's no room. The Raiders trying to keep him out. I don't know. Something to keep an eye on, John. Another story.
Do we get a Greg Papa, Mark Davis on the field embrace, hug, short conversation, over under 10 minutes interaction? I mean, they were synonymous with each other, the Davis family, Greg Papa, but the divorce, is it one of those where it's almost like, well, still the mother of my children, right? So you can work it out, or is it one of those
shared history?
Johnny Depp and what's her name, where you just, once you fucking leave the courtroom, you never look at each other again? Yeah. I don't know. That's where I would lean. But I feel like Mark would talk to him.
Here's the other question. Does Mike Shanahan make the trip?
Well, that's a hell of a. I would imagine no, but isn't Mark and Mike kind of buddies? Because
I think there's no. I don't think there's beef there, right? He tried. I
would say yeah.
If it's 117 degrees, saw Mike Shanahan today. He did
same
have
outfit?
the suede leather jacket on, shorts, same outfit, deal sleds, looking comfy. Not really deal sleds. I like calling them that, but they're not deal sleds. They're just like slip-in loafers.
Why does a guy who has dyed his hair most of his life, like let's use Coach K as an example, and then they retire from said profession, which I think was a big reason probably why they dye their hair. Like I saw a clip the other day. I followed Duke men's basketball on Instagram. And, John Shire's the head coach, and he rolls out Coach K to give a speech to the boys. And it was pretty good. I was like, damn, I'd be fucking locked in if I was one of the players. Coach K has not even thought for a second to stop dyeing that hair. Yet there had to be a time whenever Shanahan ended in Washington where maybe a week or a month went by where he's like, fuck it, what am I doing this for? And he just clearly is just waved away. He stopped, but he still has a great head of hair. Like, is there? Because there are some people, like Coach K probably gives more speeches and stuff than Shanahan, right? Is probably just more visible. Like, it'd be a weird 0 to 60 change. But I just wonder when there's a time with a professional who has gone into their 60s with doing it where they just wave the white flag, yet they're still going to have pictures taken of them, especially a public figure, right? Mike Shanahan's still famous.
Yeah, the guy that I think it's maybe a psychological change. We got to get some practice reaction here. Steve Levy is the guy that jumps out to me on ESPN. He went from dyeing it to just one day you looked up and Steve Levy was just white hair. So something happened along the way. Maybe he tried it, was like, God, I still look good. You know, that's the thing. That's what women always say. It's like, you guys, you can just go gray. It still looks good. You know, especially Mike Shanahan's hair is just, it's like all white. It looks good. It's, well,
I'll give you an example.
High and tight too on the side. That'd be interesting.
Greg Papa has great hair, but that's not the natural color of his hair in 2023. I mean,
you don't think so?
Call a spade a spade. Guy, come on. I know.
We should get him on the show and ask him.
There are no men in, what do you say, over 50 that keep the color of your hair?
My grandfather's hair stayed at work. Yeah, I mean, he got some white, but he kept his hair color for a long time.
So it can be done.
It wasn't fully, the original color, but we are sponsored by Tito's Handmade Vodka, John. Pull the helmet out. Tito's Handmade Vodka. This is the good stuff. We love it. You love it. What better time of year than football season to kick off the return of Tito's here on Haberman and Middlekoff? It's the good stuff.
Yeah, get on it right now. Have yourself a Tito's and soda, a Tito's and basically anything, and tag us on social media anytime you're drinking Tito's. Obviously, it plays a big role. Really starts, you could argue, Friday night of football season, but Saturday, obviously you got all of Sunday, so anytime you're watching college football, hanging out. This month, you're probably still trying to get out to the pool, out to the golf course, whatever. Tag us anywhere you go. I mean, we've got over the years people with just like jugs on the golf course. It's like, I hope you got an Uber home. We've seen it all. So yeah, get on it.
Yeah. There's no send us like John said. Go ahead.
The handle is hard to beat.
Yeah. Shout out to Jello on Twitter. When Tito's is back on the pod, that means I'm back on Tito's. Let's celebrate. So thanks for tagging us in that photo, and do the same. Enjoy your Tito's however you want to enjoy it. I like the little ginger beer, distilled and bottled in Austin, Texas. 40% alcohol by volume, namely 80 proof, crafted to be savored responsibly.
Get it.
All right. What do you want? You want some quarterback breakdown today?
It probably makes sense before we dive into the headline article that was written to dive into the action on the field today.
Yeah, let me give you some practice reaction, and then we can talk about that, and then we can get into the Mike Silver article that created a lot of conversation as well. So as you know, John, I've developed my own grading system. The scouts are clamoring. Guy teaches how to grade like you grade. Throws above replacement and price of admission throws. But you don't grow without change. So today, I changed how I'm grading quarterbacks.
Don't you run out of room on your board?
I actually gave myself more room today.
Okay.
And I decided to go with a golf scoring system today. Pars, birdies, bogeys.
I'm in.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The reason was throws above replacement. There was like 3 throws of practice that were above replacement level throws.
That one-handed catch,
Ronnie Bell.
Would that be like an eagle of the receiver?
Yeah, for the receiver, that's an eagle.
Yeah.
I think, like that throw, that's a good throw to debate. Like, is that a par or is that a bogey? Like, to me, the guy caught it, so I can't give you a bogey, but it's not a birdie either, right?
No.
So here are our final scores, and I can tell you some of what I saw today at 49ers practice on Tuesday. Brock Purdy, 2 under par today. Purdy had some pars. Purdy had a couple like scramble pars, like had to get up and down. In other words, it was a ball that got caught, but it wasn't a great throw, but it was, good enough. So he had a couple scramble pars. He had some birdies.
Is it fair to say that we're playing like Olympic Club and not like Hagen Oaks, given that we're playing the 49ers defense?
Yeah. You are playing a very difficult course. But I didn't give out, there were no eagles. I didn't give out any eagles today. Those would be, like, to me, a birdie is not a throw above replacement. That'd be an eagle throw. And there weren't any eagle throws today. Brock had a really nice throw on a line to Debo. Like the Debo throw, any quarterback struggling, you dial up the Debo coming across the field, 20 yards down the field, and just put that sucker on a line, and he did a really nice job of it. Brock did.
Didn't use check and RG3 in that podcast say that's like the go-to Shanahan pass play when they need it?
Yep. And it's true. So he had that throw. He had a really nice throw, and Brock's been good about this. He's done this a couple times, kind of to layer it over the linebacker throw to hit Kittle over the middle. This time it was along the side over Fred Warner. Like you get, that's what it looks like when you do it over Fred Warner. So that was a good throw. Had several pars, a par to Ayuk over the middle, a par throw to Kittle got broken up, but there was a penalty flag on the play, so giving him a par. Had a scramble par. Debo quick screen, little high, but Debo went up and got it. Is when Jimmy used to throw that. We call that a hospital ball, but it was catchable.
Did Hockey Lee throw the flag, or was that did he leave? Or was it clean?
No Hockey Lee today. I don't even know. These might be Mountain West. I don't know who's throwing. I don't know who these refs are out there. And then in red zone, he had a par touchdown throw to Debo. He had a birdie in the red zone. I think he had our only red zone birdie today. Brock did. Might have gotten sacked, but got it out to Jennings over the top in the corner. Don't try me with a sorry-ass receiver like Crabtree, like that type of throw. The DB wasn't quite as close, though, but it was a really nice throw. And Brock Purdy was 2 under today. He had a really bad bogey, though. A bad bogey. Rolling to his right, flush from the pocket, okay? McCaffrey scramble drill, but running not up the field, across the field the other direction. That means that Brock throws it across his body towards the middle of the field.
So it's like a 40-yard throw.
No. Not when I say, sorry, scramble drill is probably the wrong visual for you. He is just running, but he's not going down the field. He's coming across the field, 5 yards down the line of scrimmage. Okay. So he's not very far.
But Purdy's running too, right?
Purdy is running to his right, to his right. McCaffrey's running parallel to the line of scrimmage the other direction. So this is going to be a very difficult angle. Purdy goes across his body, over the middle. Marcelino McCrary ball, who can run, on Purdy, right on McCaffrey's hip, drops at what was an easy interception. So bad bogey. And Brock throws some bogey. I'll say this: Brock's bogeys are interceptions. Trey's bogeys are like, how did you just miss that throw over the flat? Right. So they're both bad.
In a game, let's say they're playing Bobby Wagner or someone legit. Is that a pick six if he catches it, or does McCaffrey tackle him probably right there?
No, McCaffrey's going the other direction. So that's either a pick six or like Jalen Moore's got to make a play. Colton McKivitz has got to make a tackle. Brock is in chase mode.
So there's a very good chance it's depending on where you're on the field. Like if he only has to go 20, 30 yards. He's walking in the end zone.
And it's a high risk, low upside throw. I mean, we're talking about, it's just run, get the 4 yards. And
sometimes you got to live dangerously, guy. I mean, it's
2 under par for Brock. Trey Lance today, 1 or 2 over par. There's a scoring decision that we probably still have to make. The first snap of first team for Trey today. The throw that Trey Lance misses the most consistently is the roll to his right, throw in the flat to his right. That is by far, for all 4 of these quarterbacks, that throw and Brandon Allen throwing down the field feel like the throws that get missed the most. But Trey does hit the throw, but he is now, by my count, in the last 3 practices that I've attended, missed that throw 4 times. Twice in one practice.
Can you describe me the play?
So it is Trey Lance takes the snap, play action, turns, and rolls right. Okay, so it's not flush from the pocket. He's just rolling right. The tight end is also running out to the right in the flat. So this should be just a pitch and catch throw, right?
Would you consider this a layup throw in the NFL?
I would consider this a layup throw in the NFL, yes. And he threw it over Kittle's head, uncatchable. He's twice in the last several days thrown it over Braden Willis's head, who's tall, uncatchable, and once threw it in the ground to a running back. So he has consistently. Now, I'm not saying sometimes that might be the third read. In this case, it was part of the play, and it was just a miss. So that was
Kittle wide open on the play.
open it fairly. Yes, open.
Yeah.
So that was a bogey. Borderline, like I don't know if that's a double bogey. It might be, but it's a bogey. In one-on-one drills today, Debo does not win on go balls frequently, but he had Deshaun Jameson beat down the sideline, rookie undrafted from Texas. And
I love Jenny Camp for the names, like who you're playing against.
And Trey Lance wobbled it short. So he's thrown a lot of spirals. This would have been a perfect time for a deep spiral. You just don't get that many chances with that one. And that was a bad throw. So those were his couple of bogeys for Trey Lance today. He threw a birdie throw to Brandon Ayuk over the middle. That was gorgeous. And you can I've said it yesterday, I'll say it again. When Trey throws that ball over the middle, Darnold the same. It's just at a different speed than the ball that Brock throws. And this throw was Ayuk towards the sideline, right in the chest, defender right on him. It was 20, Ambry Thomas right on Ayuk's back. And I think because of the velocity of the throw, it got to him and Ayuk was able to make the catch. So it was that was a talent throw and an accurate throw from Trey. Yes.
Can we go back to the throw that you talked about that he's missed now several times in different iterations, whether it's on the feet or over the head? My infamous tweet in Grant Cohn land that pissed everyone off, thinking that I'm being mean to Trey, just like a lot. Barstool had a tweet today of Trey Lance overthrowing someone. Right? It just
the equipment guy. I saw that. What was that from?
I think the other day. People think he gets picked on, right?
Yeah.
And my tweet symbolized was, I just used the word wheel route about 4 Tito's in, was symbolizing just basic throws. It wasn't every wheel route he throws. It's just in this offense specifically, right? The majority of pass plays are closer to layups than they are Mahomes, Farvian, crazy plays, right? That's the way the offense works. The play you're describing, you could talk to any 49er fan that has watched this team of the Kyle Shanahan era. They don't know play calls, right? They don't know the verbiage or whatever. It doesn't, what the plays look like. The play action rolls, the dump offs, like I would call it the core tenets of the offense. Like what it's the ethos, the philosophy are those plays. So what I was saying was, when you can't complete or the coach feel confident that you complete it, the other stuff, which clearly has some physical capabilities to do, you're dead to him before, right? Because he's not the type coach where I would say that mid-90s Packer version just saw that and it just changed their course, right? What they kind of looked for, the Mariucci's, obviously the Andys, what they like. The Shanahans are kind of the opposite. And it's why McVay feel like he went a little rogue with Stafford. It's like Jared Goff's kind of what they want. But Shanahan, like that, being able to function with that play, he has to feel it's like a Shaq layup. Like you got to shoot like 90%, right? And then the other stuff, like I understand 55% completion percentage on intermediate, 40 on deep balls. Like I think most coaches are cool with that, right? I think Kyle would be the first to tell you that Jimmy ball to Emmanuel Sanders, like everyone still talks about all these years later, is not a high percentage throw for most quarterbacks.
No.
Right? So, but I bet he would say there's so many other throws. If we went back and looked at, I'm just talking about that Super Bowl, probably some misses that like we have to hit that. Like this has to happen. Right?
I had a NFL pass game coordinator tell me the other day that I guess there's a famous shot of Kittle wide open and Jimmy doesn't hit him. And that was a play that angered Kyle a lot because Kyle told him before the play, it's Kittle on this play, basically. Like Kittle's the first read on this play.
And that's also what I'm talking about. It's not even just that, like, the core philosophy of the offense is a lot of, to go back with Tom Coughlin, the nakeds, the nudes, obviously the movement stuff, but it is like clearly coached up. It's going to be play action. This guy, about 99% of the time, is going to be, if not wide open enough, you fucking throw him the ball. Right? That's a huge part of the offense. And it's like, I think Kyle, part of the reason he runs hot, I think because he's like, and I've seen it with Andy, even though his personality is different, I sleep like 4 hours a night during the season, during game plan weeks, on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, developing these things. Same. It's not like I'm just pissed off to be pissed off. Like, do you understand I don't see Carter during the week? I don't go home and eat dinner with my family.
It's
because I'm watching this shit. But luckily, like for you, if you just listen to me, you're going to be sweet. Everyone's going to be giving you a reach around, and you're going to get paid a lot of money if you could just do. If Jimmy could have just done what he was told him to do, Jimmy would have been a fucking star, right? Like
and
10
stay
more
healthy,
touchdowns a year. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, he was already a star, and he couldn't stay healthy. Like, just name recognition. If he just would have been able to do 15% more of what decent players are able to do, his numbers would have been infinitely better. And instead of signing a $33 million contract, he would have signed the better version of like Derek Carr's contract.
But he wasn't physically capable.
So he's just an inaccurate player, right?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I think Jimmy was not physically capable of doing some of the stuff.
But he would even, like the stuff we're talking about with Trey, miss some of those plays as well.
Yes, he would.
Right?
Yes, he would. Remember the throw to, I mean, speaking of missed wheel routes, Kittle in the Titans game. Yeah.
Yeah, Kittle in the Titans game. There's been use check throws. I mean, there's.
Sorry, I meant use check in the Titans game.
But I think there's definitely been some Kittle ones too, where he's wide open, and anyone that stood around Kittle, clearly he's not 6 feet tall. He's not. I wouldn't call him 6'6", but he's got a wide catching radius. So this is like the crux of it all, and this is where there's no conversation. Like, why does one guy? Because I see it on the internet, guy. I do. The people don't understand why it's not like even a fair fight with the Purdy. Trey, like the reps say it all. Like one guy's just the starter. He's treated no different.
Yeah, but keep in mind, like I think part of that argument that you're talking about, part of it comes from, and you said this yesterday, Brock is the starting quarterback not based on 3 days of practice. Brock's the starting quarterback based on leading the team, being the quarterback of the team, very efficiently the quarterback of the team that went to the NFC Championship game, right? That's why Brock Purdy's the starting quarterback of the 49ers.
And even making plays above that.
Right. I'm just saying, like, what he did on the field in 2022 is the reason he's the starting quarterback. It has nothing to do with how was he in practice today versus Trey versus Sam.
Yeah. Nothing. Those games last year, from whatever date Jimmy's, that Miami game till the shoulder got ripped or the elbow, that's the reason.
Now, I will say that equity goes away really quickly once you start playing games if you're not the same player. Like, to me, it's 50-50, even if he's healthy, that, you know, let's say Brock's the starting. I mean, obviously Brock's the starting quarterback. To me, there's a 50-50 shot that even with Brock healthy, somebody else takes a snap for the 49ers this year.
Well, just for sure.
Kyle's like, well, he's not playing well today. Let's try one of these other guys.
I was having the thought last night, doing the dishes, no big deal, that Steelers week 1, their defense is going to be legit.
Did you get between the little forks? I mean, that's where I get into trouble, is between the little forks.
I get it. I've really mastered it to not get yelled at consistently, so average dishwasher. Right. What if it's they could easily lose week
below average dishwasher gets fired, though, which isn't the worst thing.
For sure. You're for it. I do a lot of, I'll go walk the dog, you clean the dishes. That, like, week 1's going to be, like, he could just look average week 1, and they could lose 20-13.
Now they better block TJ Watt off that front side.
Well, yeah, didn't they just lose a tackle today? But my point is, like, it's very conceivable, i.e. last year, they went, 13-5. That's too many games. 13-4. They lost week 1. And this opponent's way better on the road. That place is going to be going fucking bananas, right?
Rookie left tackle, get Bosa there for the game. I think they'll be okay.
But you know what I mean. Like, it's not – it's a very conceivable loss. If I tell you that they win 12 games this season and one of the games, if you didn't know the order of the season, they lost on the road at Pittsburgh in a tight battle, like, that's not a bad loss.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. They will have if they lose week 1 to Pittsburgh, they will have a worse loss during the season to a team that's not making the playoffs. That's a lock. But that feeling of being at week 1, once you're like week 8, you got more context or whatever. Week 1, we know it's just, you talk about overreaction. Mm-hmm. It is this training camp on steroids. Yeah. Right?
Yep.
There is, I would say there's no reaction to a game during a season quite like week 1, just because there's so much unknown still. Yet that
you get
game
those stats
feels
like
important.
only 48% of teams go from 0-1 to the playoffs. You start then you get like the 1 and 2 stat, and you can get behind the 8 ball real quick.
Then you start going, well, they got a Thursday game in a week and a half. Like this, they've got to win now. It's must win week 2. You already, it gets weird fast.
Where'd I leave off with Trey? Did I leave off? He had a par throw. He had a par throw Coletto touchdown. I might have mentioned that already. Bogey 82 behind on the goal line. He must have. I don't think who's 82.
Is that Dwelly? Is he still around?
Oh yeah, you're right. It was Dwelly. Threw it behind him.
Who's the number 2? Who's the number 2 tight end right now? Would you say
Charlie Warner? I don't know.
But so they don't really feel like good about. They just got about like.
I don't think it's one of the rookies.
Them. It's not the Alabama kid.
I don't think so. Cameron Latu. There was one other point I was going to make on these before.
Kyle's been playing with Dwelly. It feels like since like 10 years. I mean, it's just.
I know.
Be on the team forever.
All right. So I gave so Brock was 2 under par today. Trey was 1 or 2 over par today. Sam Darnold 2 over par today. And I saw somebody in the comments. Yeah, I am watching team. That's where you get people's numbers. I'm also watching one-on-ones. Generally, the only thing that'll stand out to me in one-on-ones is like a collective. Did you just make all the throws? And if you missed a throw, was it bad? I mean, the receiver it's built to win that drill. But it's pretty simple. Like if you have a bad throw in 1-versus-1s, like they're gonna watch the tape. Like that mattered. And especially if you're, got a deep throw open, the Niners just are not hitting that throw as a team collectively. I have a take on that in a second. But anyway.
I would say my take on one-on-ones in general would be one-on-ones wide receivers DB heavily skews toward the wide receiver because the DB has help in real life, and those guys don't exist. The one-on-ones, D-line, O-line, heavily skews to the D-line because you're never just – there's no one chipping. There's no guard. If you're an inside rusher, it's just the one guy. That's not the way football's played. So D-line, heavy advantage. Wide receiver, heavy advantage. I mean, we're talking like 70-30 skew, not close to being 50-50.
And I think the DBs have actually done pretty good in that drill. Before I move on, I'm going to hold some comments to get to, but I'll address this in the moment. Marie says 2 for 6 and 2 over par. You're not serious. 5 question marks. I do not look at the overall numbers that everyone tweets out until I've kind of gone through and added this up because I don't want it to skew what I thought. Keep in mind, you can have 2, if you have a bad miss, it's a bad miss. So I don't know if 2 of 6, I don't even know who 2 of 6 is referring to because I didn't look at the numbers today.
That's the Sam Darnold. That's classic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me go through Darnold here and I'll tell you what happened. He had a bogey on a red zone, should have been an interception. He had a par on an easy throw to Debo. He had a par to 86 in the flat. Tay Martin, which was a completion. The Debo throw was perfect. I gave him a par in one-on-one on a Ray ball, and he got a bogey on a really bad throw to McCaffrey. 5 yards in front. McCaffrey just turns around, sits down, and he short hopped it badly. That was Darnold.
Can you do one of these?
Hart, I did not see. I did not catch if he did, but yeah. I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than I grade each throw and I don't look at the numbers. So some of these are no plays. Like some of these, Darnold had if there's a flag on the play, then I'm just looking at the ball placement. Like, did he give his guy a shot? Some of these are, I thought the guy was sacked. It's a no throw, So, anyway,
you're coming away from practice. Purdy's in his own world because he's a starter. The backup job. Do we have a winner and a loser? Like, how would you grade winner, loser, push? How do you view it?
Brandon Allen was 3 under par today, John.
Well, there's a lot of buzz that he dominated in the red zone, but
yeah,
I mean, not counting him. I'm just saying Trey and Sam.
He had a really nice birdie throw on a sack. He had a really nice Ayuk throw to the sideline. He had a sack on a par throw to Debo. So that is to say, if this was he really, if they're all playing the same course, would he have been better than all of them? I don't think so. But, that's how it worked out today.
I'm talking Darnold and Trey. Like, who had the better day in your eyes?
I thought I thought today was an equal day.
See,
not great.
See, but when you just see the stat mongers,
what were the stats?
Well, I think 2 of 6 and 6 of 8. I think was the difference.
And who was 6 of 8? Trey.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, Darnold's 2 of 6 was definitely making its rounds on the interweb. So when people see that, oh, he sucks, he's terrible, win for Trey. That's not the way Scott Haberman views it.
Ernest says you're talking plain English instead of golf. Well, plain English is the numbers, or me just describing every play to you, which I do, and then you trying to remember who had more good ones and who had more bad ones. The reason I'm doing it this way is because I don't think the numbers say the whole thing. The numbers are so irrelevant to me. When it's 6 throws.
They're irrelevant to the coaches, guy. The coaches are not just going off. They don't give a fuck. They really don't. I'm telling you, they do not care.
I'm glad you've been in the room, so I'm glad to hear you say that.
When it looks like that, I'm just saying every week or if every day you're 2 of 10, obviously it's a disaster. But on a given day, you can have the quote-unquote numbers circulating the internet. And Kyle has said this for years. Like, I don't know. We're not always on the same page, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Brandon says, shouldn't interceptions be way worse? Yeah, I just debuted the system today. Maybe I should double bogey it but keep in mind, none of them actually caught the ball. But yeah, maybe we go a double bogey on a pick. But again, to me, it's dependent on what happened on the play. It's not as simple as it was an interception. All interceptions are double bogeys. So, this system is figuring as we go. We don't harp on completion percentage I have not talked about completion percentage once I never talk about it when it comes to these practice 6 throws. Don't do it. It's why I thought golf would be better, because golf, you can just have regular throws that still get graded. You can have good ones and you can have bad ones. That's a good way to know. So anyway,
I do think, and I feel good about this every day, that Sam Darnold is not clearly holding his own, and more than holding his own, he's been better in a lot of practices. Like, he's the backup quarterback. I feel pretty confident about saying that. I'm not going to budge. And this is not, my opinions are based on Kyle's actions and the 49ers actions. Just like last year, my takes, I don't just pull things out of my ass. People think I'm being mean. Like, why did they re-sign Jimmy last year? And we were talking about this last year. The team wanted it, a.k.a. the star players, and the coach wanted it. And Jimmy had nowhere to go. So it just worked out. But this is not like, everyone's been against Trey. You mean the team? The coach who... It'd be one thing, too, if like they had a CEO head coach. Head coach is kind of important to the whole offense, right? I mean, it's kind of a unique spot for the guy at the top of the food chain. We're not talking about John Harbaugh here, making like organizational decisions. Like, this is the guy that's calling the fucking play for the guy to pull the trigger. So I would say he has, like any play caller that's also the head coach, kind of a unique perspective on it. Probably different from a Tomlin, from a Harbaugh, even a lot of the defensive coaches, right?
And maybe that also means blind spots.
For sure. I'm not saying this is going to be right. He goes with Sam Darnold, Purdy gets hurt, and Sam's not good, and they have cut or traded, or Trey's not around, let's say. He'd take a lot of heat. It's part of being the fucking lead dog and the decision maker. Anyone can make a suggestion. There's not a lot of people in any business, in any situation, that make decisions, right? So look at your own personal relationships. You just look at what should we eat tonight? What should we eat tonight? No one wants to make a decision. Imagine decisions that actually matter. Like, who should we cut? And there are a lot of, ultimate decisions that happen this month where a month or two later, you're like, God, we probably should have kept that guy. But at the time, it's like backup O-lineman, we'll keep a number, and that guy goes on to be a starter on another team, right? Those don't sink you. But there is a decision that's coming here that is going to be, I would say it's up near the top of the league of the one that's going to be watched, just given like
100%.
Once it's officially named who the backup quarterback is, it's going to be one of the biggest stories in the NFL, would you say? Especially if Trey Lance is the third quarterback.
I got to think through all the training camp stories, but it's
non-injuries.
No. In terms of just like storylines that everybody's following, I mean, the whole summer was just this. So I know that it gets clicks for NFL.com and ESPN and everybody. It works.
But also
it's
because
also a real story.
Yeah, it's a real, like, I think that a lot of
one
times,
of the three
like,
best teams in the NFC. I mean,
yeah, sometimes like I hate like fake drama, and then there's like Jim Irsay and Jonathan Taylor like talking shit to each other. Like that's a real story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a real story. That, you know, like some of the NBA stuff, it's like, is this even fucking real? Like, what's even going? This is no. He just said, if I die, we're not trading this guy, and the other guy's like, I want to trade. Like, this isn't fake drama in Indy. Like this is. Then I saw today a clip. He's walking around. He's not even at practice. He's just in a t-shirt. Same thing here, right? I mean, you got guys battling, but some people, like myself, don't feel like it's a true battle. It's rigged.
Let me get to a couple reactions here, John. Lotus says, Grant Cohn said Purdy looked bad today. Others said he looked the best today. LOL. I thought he was fine today. I don't think it was great today. And again, part of it was his decision on the near interception was a bad decision. His screen ball to Debo was caught, but high. But he made some other really good throws. And again, here's the other caveat that it's he had one great throw to Jennings. Like I said, he probably gets hit on the play. So, you know, it's – and then there are several scrambles. I just throw scrambles out. Kyle's going to think you should have had that guy or you should have done that. I'd be lying on a scramble if – especially from field level, if I know what his read was and who was open, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Millhouse gave us $20. Well, we're going to split that evenly after Google gets its cut. So thank you. So let's see if this works. Thank you for the hours of entertainment y'all provided. Back at that poop tier radio station when I used to drive 8+ hours a day for a road sales gig. Love the pod.
Thanks, Millhouse. Appreciate you.
Oh, gee. Bruce says Brock throws the same bad picks on the same plays that Jimmy did. He just had better interception luck last season.
Also threw a lot more touchdowns.
Also threw a lot of touchdowns. I think that is kind of something to watch, though. The playmaker gene. Like, here's a comment from Todd. That's the type of play that drove Iowa State fans nuts.
The difference is the Niners are a lot better than Iowa State in terms of the rest of their team, so it's easier for them to overcome it. I also got news for you. Like a lot of the top quarterbacks, you know, Josh Allen, who's viewed as an elite player, throwing 14 picks. Like you're not going to get 6-7 picks. This is not how the guy's going to play. Well, I can live with 13, 14 picks if you throw 35 touchdowns.
Right.
Or / manipulate it through your running offense as well. The Niners are unique. Like if they're scoring a lot of touchdowns and averaging, I would say the top 5 or 6 points per game, you can live with some interceptions, especially factoring in your defense is just even through some injuries along the way, which are inevitable. It's still going to be pretty good because wouldn't you say just the depth of the Niners defense is pretty good? Linebacker, the front seven's damn good. Most teams DBs are.
I mean, I don't think they need to go sign. They just signed Taco Charlton. I don't think they need to go spend $4 million on some pass rusher.
Did they?
No. But, you know, there are some name brand kind of pass rushers that have been out there over the last several months. And, you know, I've thought that they have enough depth. Although I was talking to Larry Krueger, he's like, you know, just think about them the last several years, the Amenahus of the world. Like they did get a lot of production from several pass rushers over the last couple of years. You can't be too deep at that position was the argument. So I understand that. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
well, I'll tell you this, like a Taco Charlton signing, I would guess, I don't have inside information on this, a lot of it is based on they give veteran days off, let's say right now to Eric Armstead, right? He's not going to be in every single practice. They're missing a defensive lineman in Nick Bosa. The pads come on that you just need a body. Like I would imagine just from a repetition standpoint, it's just you need like you see a lot of if you just like scroll Roto World or Pro Football Talk, X player gets signed, and sometimes like Taco, former high pick that you kind of know the name. It's not kind of can we get a look? I mean, it's the business you're in, but also our guys are gassed, especially what the 49ers ask. You're missing a couple bodies. You got a day off coming for this guy. It's a numbers game.
Physicality of next week. Physicality of next week. So you don't think I looked back, Taco got drafted 2 spots ahead of Reuben Foster. So they might have liked him.
I'm pretty sure Taco got drafted ahead of TJ Watt too.
Taco was like 20.
24.
Yeah. Well, what was Ruben? 28.
31.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think it was a couple more spots.
As you're looking, I'll read you one more from HR. It says USC QBs are trash. You know, I was talking to a buddy today who knows USC quarterbacks really well. And he said the one thing people kind of forget is that, and once he said this, it kind of clicked. You know, Sam Darnold is not really USC kind of on-brand quarterback. You know, like he's not going on TV when his career. He's not Sanchez or Leinart, and that like his dad was although I mean Sanchez was the same, I guess, right? Sanchez Sanchez's dad was blue collar.
Yeah.
Darnold's dad was like I think a janitor. But Sam is more low key, I think, than what the perception of like a USC quarterback is.
Well, you look at his best friend is Josh Allen, Valley guy. Josh is pretty famous now, but I would say he's pretty low key too. Keeps kind of a lower profile.
Although
I did see he's dating an actress.
Yeah, he broke up with the girl who broke up with her fiance.
Well, the one thing that I heard through the grapevines of some Valley people, there was not trying to get involved in other people's relationship, but a mandate on some marriage and a ring.
Understandable.
And it's like, I'm focusing on, you see what Burrow and
Gotta
Mahomes
slow
are doing?
play it. Oh.
We're 27 years old. Like, what the fuck? Take a deep breath. Life's pretty good. Let's both play the field and see how it goes. And she's a beautiful girl.
Yeah,
the Fresno State ex-girlfriend.
Tough to go do or die.
$40 million a year star quarterback.
Early prime QB.
Mahomes' wife was onto something. You get that, you lock it up.
Sox Nation says, I feel like you guys are forgetting that when Purdy starts games, Lance will definitely come run RPO. Lance definitely not getting third string. Or, conversation I had with Greg Papa today, you just carry three. You carry three, not emergency quarterback three, active roster three, and you use Trey in that capacity. You could. Kyle's history does not suggest he enjoys doing that. Remember, Kyle did it and he hated it. He felt like it fucked up his rhythm. They did it on the goal line. He didn't like it. Jimmy didn't like it. They don't like it.
He's not a good enough runner.
Throws, well, then there's that. Yeah, good point.
If the guy was Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, hell, Tyler Huntley, someone more confident running against NFL players, he is not. Jalen Hurts. Of all the quote-unquote running quarterbacks, because I would say people consider Trey a casual does, right? A running quarterback. He's got to be the worst running quarterback in the NFL.
Casual.
Easily. I mean, I think there's a gap. Like, every guy you name that can run, you go, got it. It makes you a little nervous when they run. Do you think Trey would make defensive coordinators nervous? I was thinking about this, too, today. I think the Niners, I haven't checked recently, but it opened up as like a 3-point favorite. And this was like in the offseason when the schedule came out. The Niners are a 3-point favorite on the road against the Steelers, right?
Okay.
So I remember reading an article like, that reflects and represents just the respect that Shanahan and the team gets, even though the quarterback situation, this is at the time people didn't even know about Purdy's elbow. If Trey Lance was the starter, like if they just named to tomorrow, Trey Lance is the starter, I think that line would move. And I don't think it'd be a guarantee the Niners would be favored in the game.
I think they still would be. Because everything you just said still holds. It's Kyle. It's a good defense against Kenny Pickett. I think
part of it is assuming that the Brock Purdy that we saw play in those games is going to be the starter in that favored game. The Niners are better than the Steelers.
Yeah.
I think it changes dramatically just because the offense is proven in its small sample size has been fucking very hit or miss when the other guy's been the quarterback.
Yeah, small sample size. I just me watching them, like Trey does miss those basic throws, and that hurts. Like, especially like when you're winning, when you're playing playoff games and small marching games, etc. I do think Trey would have a high enough floor for them to win a fair amount of football games with him as their quarterback. And that is mostly
that's not what I'm saying. I'm just talking against the Steelers, who I think could be a playoff team.
I'm just giving you just made me think of like however this but I think that about Purdy, I think that about Darnold too. So
who would you, if you had to bet money on 17 games they were going to stay healthy, the Niners would win more games with right now, Darnold or Lance?
That's really, I've seen Sam play regular season football games. It's not playoff football. It hasn't been. you know. But I think they would pick Sam.
I think they're going to pick Sam.
Yeah. They would pick Sam. I don't know. I mean, I for dealing in the reality of what is with Brock and the reality of where Trey is with Sam, I also am not in the camp of having given, even as I've seen some of these bad misses from Trey, but they all have bad misses. I am not in the camp of having given up on the possibility that Trey Lance can play NFL football. I have not. And it's why I would pick Trey over Brandon Allen, because that's another story, but which we can get to.
What would Mike Silver do?
You want Mike? I got some other camp takes. Let's go to Mike Silver. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
And then I'll give you some other non-quarterback reactions. What'd you think of this? 49ers quarterback challenge. Pick the best three, even if that forces Trey Lance out, writes Mike Silver of the Chronicle. Put it all together along with some interesting comments from Shanahan to me and in news conferences, and it creates a question. So he talked to Kyle, non-news conference. Will Lance be on the roster when the 49ers open the season? I know this might sound like blasphemy, given the draft capital. The person whose opinion matters most, Shanahan is telling us with words and actions that he believes all four on the 90-man are good enough to stick around when it comes time to reduce to 53. If Shanahan decides the three quarterbacks who give the win now, Niners the best chance to do so are Purdy, Darnold, and Allen. That I have some small advice. Just do it. Take the heat, move on, and don't look back. In other words, move on from Trey.
Yeah, I mean, I think coming into this camp and even the way it's played out, it is on the table with him not being on this team come week one. And I think it's more, they would be able to find a trade. Now, they would have to eat some money, I would imagine, to get a fifth-round pick. I think he wrote the best thing they had in the offseason was a fifth-round pick. But you would, if you were cool with cutting him, you would just trade him for the fifth-round pick to get something. But again, I'm sure they'd have to eat some money to facilitate that trade. But it's all on the table, and anyone that doesn't think it is a fucking idiot and doesn't get it. Mike Silver's been covering the league for 30 years, talks to these people. I mean, the amount of people that think they know that have never talked to one person that works in the NFL or it's laughable. And I get it, emotions are high. And listen, I'm pro-fan, like having some crazy takes, but like this is not some blogger that doesn't know anyone writing some controversial article to get some clicks. This is someone that has known his father since the early 90s. And I've said this over and over. Like, Mike Silver, I would put his Rolodex of people in the NFL would be underrated. I would say it's closer to like Adam Schefter than anyone would imagine. Just it's his personality. One, he's just I don't know. He's got something that ingratiates himself. I saw it when I was in Philly when I first met him. He got my number on the sideline. Now, part of it was we both lived in, I grew up in Davis. He lived in Davis, still does. But he could just, from Howie to the other coaches to the assistant, he just fucking knows them all. Like, he's not making this stuff up. And I'm not saying this is not like maybe a theory of his, but he knows what he's doing. He's coming from a place of an educated guess, I would say, or an educated take. And this is what the best in the business do. Whether it's Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, when they have a quote-unquote strong, they're not just making it up. They're not necessarily, I'm not saying they're always right, but they're basing it on people telling them stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was a strong reaction to whether or not Brandon Allen's better than Trey Lance. And after watching practice, I'm here to tell you, I don't think Brandon Allen is better than Trey Lance. But part of what Mike Silver is writing is and you and I have talked about this part's not breaking news. There is a whole scale of what is your value, how much you're going to cost us, what do we invest in our third quarterback, right? Maybe the third quarterback battle doesn't come down to which guy is actually a better player or has a higher ceiling. I would keep Trey Lance over Brandon Allen. A lot of people say they would. That's not necessarily what Mike's saying. Mike Silver I think the relevant part, this is what you're talking about here. This whole article exists because he has the information that tells him this is a real possibility, which you and I have been talking about since before he wrote this article. This is not new news.
But this is where you don't need to know anyone in the NFL. If you are older than 25 years old and you have been following sports and you are just a diehard fan, if you can't put the piece of the puzzle of what is just on the table, not what's going to happen, because no one truly knows, besides maybe Kyle and Lynch already have their mind made up. But if you can't see the 3 different avenues potentially, you're a fucking slapdick sports fan. Like, before I ever worked in sports, when I was in high school, I would have been able to see some of the different outcomes. Not that I would have been on the side of this is crazy, but it's clear that this is a possibility.
Well, why are they keeping Brandon Allen around if it's not a possibility? You could argue just for injury prevent. As long as he's here, we don't get rid of anybody until we have to. And that's a legitimate answer, right?
Well,
but the other possibility is that you might need him. That you keep him around because you might need him.
Which would be insane. And like that would, if they get down to 3 quarterbacks again, let's just say hypothetically they got rid of Trey and had 3 quarterbacks and Brandon Allen played because there were injuries. Like, this is just, they're a part of the craziest thing in the history of the league. The quarterbacks keep dropping like flies. They've had 17 quarterback injuries in 5 years. Yeah. Which would be like, you just fire the doctors again because
a rich tradition of quarterback injuries.
I would say this. This is not Madden or fantasy football. And if the guy is your 3rd string quarterback, even if he is more physically gifted, younger, more upside, which is not debatable, that there is an economical element to he makes $9 million. And I don't care. You hear this a lot in the NBA. The cap's going up. Get used to these big salaries. Well, yeah, if you're going to pay Jaylen Brown $70 million a year, you're just not going to win a championship. That's a fact. You know, there's always comes a line, whether it's $10 million, whether in the NBA it's $50 million. Like, there are better contracts than others, and I just don't think you can have your 3rd quarterback making that much money because it enables you to do other things. What if you need said player mid-season and that $5 million of space, even if you had to eat $4 million of it, enables you to trade for this year's version of Von Miller or Christian McCaffrey. Like they're going to be into making moves, right? You have to view the Niners, and they've proven this now, I would say, with John and Kyle, closer to Belichick, just in terms of, like, they've been cutthroat. They've done some on both ends, right? They've gotten rid of Buckner, like the way that they were ready to get rid of Jimmy and then bring him back. Like, they'll do crazy things that don't parallel other organizations, but they'll also, like, midseason trade for. A couple years ago was Emmanuel Sanders. Last year was the Christian McCaffrey. They're not afraid to do things that'll just, like, whoa, right? Wouldn't you say that's been a pretty consistent theme with them?
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't, if they chase a sunk cost, it's not because of the invested, right? Like, they didn't keep Jalen Hurts around because they felt like, we drafted him highly. They just kept him around because they kept hoping he would be healthy and they still believed in him, right?
The other variable here is, as long as Trey's on the team, and especially if he's the 3rd quarterback, he still is like, there's an elephant in the room of a conversation about people constantly kind of asking about him. It's just a story that you can remove. And that is a football element of removing stories. You and I disagree on this. The Jimmy thing last year, coaches just do not. Now, like Jimmy, same thing with Trey. I think internally, maybe it's no issue to them and they don't really care. So Belichick historically removes those things. Maybe Kyle's a little less likely.
I think the way Kyle looks at it is, might I need this player? It's like, if you follow a flow chart, the answer is yes, I might need this player. Which player helps me more? And then you follow the flow chart. Is it rude to this? Is it mean to this player to keep him around? Is not on there. Or does this guy deserve a shot somewhere else? Is not on there. Or, is this a distraction for my team? Is just not on there.
I think it would be if he felt it legitimately was. Because I'm with you. The rude to the player, none of that shit means a goddamn thing to him. That's his Belichick. If it's a distraction to his team, and I'm not saying this would be, I do think he would remove it.
If it's an internal distraction, I would agree with you, yes. I don't think this feels like I just watch the quarterbacks a lot interact, even when the drill's done. It's a pretty good little room there. Like, they got a good little vibe. And I do think if I was like in Trey Lance's ear, I'd be like, Trey, just keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. You saw what happened last year. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. Brock, who knows? Keep it up, keep it up. Sam, if he has to play, who the hell knows? Keep it up, keep it up. Like, that's what I would be saying to Trey. And I think that's what Trey should be saying to himself. Just keep it up.
And you could counter-argue me by saying it's way less weird now that it's kind of established he's a backup player, right? Last year it was weird because, wait, you're going to keep Jimmy? He's going to be his backup? Like, the variables, he's going to be a first-year starter?
Right.
This year's like, yeah, he's the backup. That's probably what they would tell you. Like, the roles are very established. Like, he knew coming in what the situation was. There was no – we're not doing guessing games here. right? There's no, beside a couple YouTube channels that think he has an opportunity to start, that doesn't actually exist in real life, right? But part of it, and listen, I don't think Kyle necessarily cares. I mean, there are, like Grant, for example, he's very anti-Purdy and very pro-Trey, like believes he should be starting, right? And then there are people like Silver who, are kind of pushing like he should get cut. So, I mean, there are extremes on both.
But I think those are two different things almost, right? Like I think part of Grant's point is like, will you try and develop this guy? He doesn't get to play. He hasn't gotten the shot. Whereas Silver is, it's funny that they argue with each other because I think they're coming from a different place. Silver's just going, I'm just telling you guys what the situation might be, right? Whether you disagree with it or not. This is part of the 49ers are thinking about every avenue, and this is one of the avenues.
Yeah.
Tyler says that's not really Grant's take. I don't know which part he's reacting to, but I do think those are two slightly different things. But I didn't read the entire thread. Those two went at it for a while on Twitter.
Okay.
But when I see Grant on Thursday, I'll clarify exactly his take, and then I can report back to you, John.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people that think Trey's getting screwed, and that's not the way the NFL works. It's a production-based business, coaches, players, and sometimes you get hurt and you get Wally pipped. I mean, it's just the nature. It's happened to a million players. It happened to fucking Peyton Manning. I mean, it happens to everybody.
There's this feeling, and I'm seeing some of the comments that are like, there are people that believe in Darnold and don't believe in Trey. That's true. Then there's also, I think Darnold's here for a reason, and I think it's because Kyle wants him to be backup quarterback. That statement is not a statement of how good I or you think Darnold is or think Trey is. It's kind of reading the tea leaves. And I know the fact that Silver was one of 20 major media members who predicted that the Niners were going to draft Mac Jones gets used against him and gets used against every other person that said they're going to pick Mac Jones. And I'll repeat what I've said. We get new people here every day. I'll repeat what I've been saying the whole time. They did like Mac Jones, and it was between Trey and Mac. I think you should be alarmed.
Which is insanity.
When 20 people, whatever the number was, I'm making up the number, all say the same thing. And the simple explanation, everyone just went, all these people are idiots. They all got it wrong the same way. And I think the question everybody should ask is, why did they all have the same incorrect information? And I think it was because they had incorrect inside information, not incorrect guesses. I think some of them were guessing. But in other words, I wouldn't invalidate anybody's take based on they thought the Niners were going to take Mac Jones, because I'm sure there were some people in that building that were biting their fingernails hoping that Kyle didn't, because they understood that Kyle did like him.
Yeah. Like probably an understatement.
Which would have been,
I mean, probably closer to love. I mean, he traded up 12-3 thinking in his mind
maybe
before he really dove into Trey. I mean, he's kind of admitted it. I mean, he loved Mac.
Yeah.
Which, thank God. I got
no
problem. I heard him say this. Did he say it to Kawakami? Why did you say at 12 to get Mac Jones? Like, we would have been jumped by
He said he knew for a fact. He said he knew of it.
It's just such a lie.
He said multiple teams would have taken him. Yeah.
Do you know what pisses me off about coaches?
But that's what he thinks. That's we don't. That can't be.
What it really does is their fucking ability in the draft so often is just so out of touch. Kyle is so good as a schemer, and that's his baby. Like, you're thinking on the draft and just the mechanics of it and the information. That ain't your baby. Like, your ability with value and shit is that's fucking laughable. I remember texting with a buddy on the Chiefs. Is like, if he doesn't go 3, we've talked about it joking around. Like, where does Mac Jones go? Assuming Bill just like, that was the only potential. It's like they thought, like, could he be there when we pick? I mean, he could just plummet. He was not viewed beside Kyle, and Bill really was more just like, we need a quarterback. I don't think Bill viewed him right clearly as like his next Tom Brady. Hell, I bet Bill liked Jimmy Garoppolo more than Mac Jones, right? Just in a vacuum, not necessarily obviously drafted Mac higher, but this notion that other teams were going to trade up for him.
Well, Jimmy's better than Mac Jones so far.
Kyle, you didn't take Mac Jones, and he fucking fell, and no one else traded beside for other players. What the fuck are you talking about? Like that, the overall, and this gets back to the the scout in me with coaches dealing with the draft is their ideas on shit are just wrong. It's why so many people just stay out, man. Like, we want to know who you like or whatever, but let us deal with the values and the mechanics of it all. Because your view of talking to your buddy, like, you're just wrong. I mean, you just are. We spend 12 months a year talking and thinking about this. You come in around the combine. Kyle doesn't even, because they don't even go. They come in around fucking after free agency like, oh, what's going on with the draft, guys? I was like, yeah, nice to see you. Been doing this since the last summer. That's embarrassing, honestly. Like Kyle, people, with my Trey Lance tweet think I'm a Kyle bootlicker. But Kyle, you did not take him, and then nobody traded up to get him. What do you mean people were going to trade up over you? Like, wouldn't people have gotten aggressive to try to get the guy? He's a quarterback. We see it every year. People trade up to get quarterbacks. The Cardinals did it with Rosen. Remember, 50? Everyone does.
Yeah.
It's like that's just the nature, especially when there are multiple quarterbacks because there was Fields and Mac.
And
you just didn't know.
I think Mac was pretty well connected to the Patriots. It's not like people were fooled, right? Teams knew the Patriots.
Well, that's another example, right? So if someone really wanted him, they would have at least got to 14.
They would have known you got to get ahead of New England.
That's fucking laughable. But I believe to his core, he believes that. It's just not right information. Because we just saw it play out. He would have got 14.
I think they made a desperate, they acted out of desperation when they traded up in that draft.
Here's where he might be correct. But he said multiple teams. If he said the Patriots would have jumped us for Mac, okay. Believable, right? They took him a little desperate, even though that's not really Bill's MO. But if he would have said that, we think the Patriots would have jumped us, I would not be arguing. But he said, like, teams. And I think he believes it to his deathbed. Some of these coaches' ideas.
Maybe a coach has told him that, like, yeah, man, we're going to move up.
Sure.
Tyler just gave us $10.
Thanks, buddy.
Anything else on this silver before we get to the internet?
No.
I got more quarterback reporting to get to, but so this situation obviously devolved the other day after you said Trey can't complete a wheel route on the internet. There should be a little thing on Twitter that says, like, after 2 Tito's, like a little, instead of like from where you, or doesn't mean this literally is making a larger point, but I don't think that matters. So you sent me this yesterday.
Listen, I'm not above searching my name. I definitely did a lot when I was younger. I don't have Twitter on my phone. I try to avoid it at all costs consistently over the course of a day if I don't, non like football stuff. I did not search this out. Again, not above it. Fabian, a listener of the show, had tagged me in this talking shit to these guys. This is how I was alerted to the tweet. And the tweet, the main tweet, whatever. Like people have said way worse, and they will continue to. It was the first comment to "So glad I got off the Middlekoff train a while back." Dude sucks and is a weirdo. Not gonna deny being a weirdo. We're all a little different. It was the comment that really, honestly, for about an hour before I shared it with a lot of people, made me look in the mirror. Like, am I a bad guy? Am I a scumbag? Then I took a screenshot, shared it with several group chats, got a lot of LOLs. I know a lot of people, I think, legitimately laugh because it is. I
laughed very hard.
It is funny. Now, here's the thing. The first comment to Middlekoff's a weirdo, he sucks is, and you would have to be included in this unless I had an intern post, I don't know, like my Walnut Creek place that I've forgotten about. I interned for him in college, and he didn't bother to learn my name. And when I sent this to you, because this is a shot at the character. This is a shot at kind of the core of who you are as a person. Like,
this
you
says,
treat people under you
self-absorbed,
like
ignores people who can't help him. Yeah.
Just, you could even keep it more, piece of shit. This guy is just what the casual person, if they ever came in contact, just a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And when I forwarded you this and got some laughs, I legitimately asked, did we have interns? Because I looked at Maria last night. I said, Maria, I don't think, and with the Eagles, with Fresno State, when we had a radio show, I've been around we've had interns in the building, but I've never had an intern that was like, that's Middlekoff's intern, Right. That's Middlekoff's assistant. Like, there have been, like, people, especially the radio, there were interns Elena, remember, would help out producers, and they're countless. And I'd be the first to say I wasn't locked in. Just because you're an intern doesn't mean I've been an intern. No one gives a shit about you. But we didn't have like Haberman, Middlekauff and their intern 9 or Nate or whatever. Like, what the fuck? But that shot at my character. It did like, was I a piece of shit? Then I came to the realization I've never even had an intern.
The funny part to me is, like, you and I have talked about this a lot over the years. It's a point of, it makes us laugh when we talk about this stuff. It got so bad at that radio station. And there are people new here that don't know that maybe we've been doing a podcast since 2016, since we left radio in the Bay Area. But they created a communal work area, a bullpen. And you and I still insisted on going into our own little office and closing the door, which I would still defend that decision to this day. Like, I'm here talking loudly. We're trying to collect ideas, prepare for a show, high pressure environment. We should be able to go somewhere and close the door. They rolled a big ass round table into that room and removed all the chairs to prevent us from using, and then mandated us that we had to work in a public space. I say all that to say that in an honest revisiting of our behavior in that environment, we had blinders on, put our head down, and basically just talked to our producer.
I am not coming here to this podcast and acting or condone would be the wrong word, because I did believe, but I would say that my actions were not great consistently in my time there, especially post, like, the guy that hired us, once he left, became a bad person in terms to upper management. But I would say people under us, I'm bad with names. Again, didn't have an intern directly on their show. Like, I think there might have been one that represented out, maybe 6 a.m. till noon, and then noon, whatever. Could be wrong. And if this is true, I do apologize. But I do believe, I'm pretty confident that this is false, fake news.
Well, I think there's a good shot that it's true. Now, well, I think your argument is you and we did not have a personal intern. You're saying if there were interns, they interned, or not if there were interns, they were interns, and they interned for the station and got assigned to a show and worked closely with a producer. And
100%. Yeah, I'm not saying interns didn't exist.
And we're just told, like, don't look John in the eyes, basically.
Yeah. I'm a much better human being in 2023 than I was in 2000.
We'd be pretending
15.
Yeah. If we revisited if they made a 30 for 30, I don't think all the footage would be pretty.
I'd say Greg Papa, fuck you, get out of my face, is something that I regret not saying to the guy.
But Greg didn't say that to an intern. He said that to the boss.
But it was one of those, it's like.
Deserved it.
When you got Joel Embiid on the team, is the coach actually in charge, or is he in charge?
Well, it's one of those, like, well, who's the coach? If it's David Blatt, like, yeah, get out of my face. Yeah. I'm LeBron. And that was the situation there. Even though David Blatt won a lot more in his own right than, the person that we're talking about.
Do you have any learned keys to remembering names? Say 3 times in your head. Do you have a type it into your phone?
Well, one of my things is I've just decided, like, I'm not going to feel bad about asking again. It's better to just say, I'm sorry, tell me your name again, and just be straight up about it. Or I know you told me, but can you remind me? Like, that is way better than, what's up, boss?
See you, buddy.
That's... and I say that to people whose name I know. I don't say boss, but, like, that would be my key. Is, like, I think people will appreciate if you forget, just tell me again. And it's
the 3M Open last weekend, which it was an awful, it was a relevant tournament. This guy named Lee Hodges won it, Alabama product. The coach for Alabama showed up on Saturday. He had a big lead. Just watch him the next 2 days. It was going to be his first PGA Tour win. He won it. And there was a lot of on CBS, like the head coach at Alabama Golf, who's been there forever, was there, like, Alabama polo falling wrong. Nance talking to him. Well, I think Nance is off, but whoever the backup is with Immelman, right? So he's a big part of Alabama. After the PGA Tour tweeted out this video of, because Saban and this guy are pretty close. the golf coach, and I think Saban's a big golf guy, supports all their guys on tour, calls him, and they put him on speakerphone to talk to Lee Hodges, who's probably like 27, 28 years old. And they put it on, and clearly, classic SEC guy, can't wait for football season. But he calls Nick pal, buddy, and champ or something. He's like, thanks, pal. Thanks, buddy. This is Lee talking to Nick, congratulating him how much fun he had watching. He was watching every step of the way. And then it was just Lee Hodges, after the fact, quoted like the PGA Instagram, like, that's the most embarrassing thing I've ever done. I was more nervous talking to Coach Saban after my PGA victory than I was during the victory. My point is, like, sometimes your head's not all there working correctly.
Somebody wrote, I lost the comment, but maybe name tags. The beauty of name tags is it does help you learn the name without the name tag. So yeah, I don't think I don't know. I don't know if a deep interview process of all the people that intern for us would put either.
Again, guy, we did not have interns. We did not have interns. I've never had an intern. We had interns in the operation, which if I didn't know your name, I go back and forth, right? Like I knew Elena's name. Like I just think I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but I've been intern places. People don't. I'm not trying to act better than anybody. I think my life resume would speak to that, but it's like
part of the reason you knew Elena's name was eventually she got the job there and just you worked with her a lot. Maybe that was part of it.
You're just not
your name 2 weeks in, maybe not.
Yeah, you're just not guaranteed. There have been a lot of coaching interns that aren't Deuce Staley and don't turn into a lifelong dominant coach, right? A lot of interns like, who's this guy? Not very good.
But just the bottom line is this was correct. Potentially correct.
Potentially,
Believable.
Yeah.
Colin says, can the record show that it's more expensive to cut Trey, $14.6 million, than to keep him at $9.3 million, and a $10.3 million in dead cap in 2024 per over the cap?
I don't think my pushback to Silver would be, given how he's clearly progressed and given his character, I don't think cutting him is on the table. If he is not on the team in 2023, which would, I'm sure, take place, I guess you never know. There could be an injury, so it could happen sooner. But around the cut deadline, it would be a trade. I think cutting him is, you don't need to cut him. The only way to me he's not on the roster would be trade. I do think a trade would be, depending on the value and who was trading.
The value. What's the value going to be? To me, it's not better than a 4th round pick, right? And that's best. I think 4th round pick is best case scenario for a guy who might end up playing games for you.
But my point is, if the organization views that they're better off without him here, whether we could disagree on it all day long, cutting him is dumb if you can get something for him, which I think obviously they know. They would try to trade him, right?
Yeah, I mean, but you're taking on it's going to cost you money to acquire. Is there going to be a competition for teams that want to give you a 5th round pick?
No, probably not.
So why wouldn't that team wait for him to be cut? Just because you think he's not getting cut?
Well, yeah, you just keep him on the roster.
Yeah.
There are players on your team, on every good team, that you would contemplate trading, but if not, you just keep, right? Not every player is cut or trade, right? It's like, we'll play with this guy, but you want, like right now, if someone called and offered a 1st round pick for Drake Jackson, right? Would the Niners have to do it?
Yep.
Pretty risky though. What if the guy became a really good passer?
Well, I mean, part of that evaluation is like, do you think
that's a bad comp? It's like
that's a good one, because part of it is like, what do we think? Do we think this player will turn into a premium? We've worked with him for a year. Do we think he's going to turn into a premium pass rusher?
Well, what was Jalen Moore that went down today in practice?
Yes.
Got up, hobbled off to look terrible.
Left knee. I don't know. I have not. In the car back home, talk to Papa. So if that, maybe that's been reported what the situation is there.
Well, that'd be a good example. Let's just assume he hadn't got hurt. He's a backup swing tackle. Right?
He is the swing tackle, probably.
Where would you trade him like someone that needed a starting tackle if they're like, hey, we'll give you a 4th round pick. Again, this is just completely hypothetical. That could shoot up if he starts 17 games and we make the playoffs to a 2nd. You're like, fuck it, let's trade him. We'll claim another guy to get a swing like that. But you would keep Jalen Moore on your team unless someone calls you and blows you away. It's one of those, like, you're not cutting him, but you don't want to trade him. But it's like, God, this is a good deal. Like, what if this guy goes on to be a 17-game starter for the Dolphins there in the playoffs? This thing turns into pick 60.
Right.
So it's just kind of the business you're in, which I think a lot of those conversations, Sneaky, really start to pick up this next week because you start really kind of getting an idea on your team. Like, yeah, we thought this guy could play, but maybe he can't, right? Or vice versa. We were interested in your guy, but now watching our guy in pads, we feel a little more comfortable. Because these practices are about like the McCaffreys and the Warners, like just getting them in shape and keeping them healthy. It's really a lot about the Trey Lances, the Danny Grays, like, are these guys ready to roll or are they not, right? And that's the majority of the NFL, right? The non-22 on the field, really 23 to 50, because you got a kicker, punter, and long snapper, right? Like that kind of group. Like, are guys training up, guys training down, veteran? How many veterans, right, are you paying $7 million, but it's not guaranteed? You're like, is this guy a $7 million player anymore? What about this seventh rounder that was on a practice squad last year who's actually as good as him? Fuck it, let's cut that guy, keep the guy $850,000, and let's roll. I mean, that is happening all over the league, which then you go, well, so-and-so is available for trade, right? Was because we take your $7 million guy. So it's a lot of, but all these conversations really take shape after pads. 2 days probably a little quick, but I would say by like Sunday, after 5, 6, every team's had a long week of practices, get a better idea, especially older players that once they make the roster week 1 and they play in that game, their contract's guaranteed. So that 3, 8, 10, whatever $1 million, or the young practice squad dude from last year who's made a step. Like,
Leroy Watson, second-year offensive lineman out of UTSA, 6'5", 311, former tight end. Trent Williams, I watched Trent talk the other day, and he personally worked out with he worked Leroy out, and likes him because he's kind of like me, like athletic. When Jalen Moore got hurt,
kind of like me.
Well, just like athletically, like a former tight end. I mean, obviously you're not like Trent, but 6'5", 311, John, but like a tight end history. So he's the guy that took over for Jalen Moore at tackle when Jalen Moore got hurt.
Do you know who had a similar background in their career? Tight end in college and made the transition? Him too, but Jason Peters, who's had a Hall of Fame career with the Eagles. Undrafted free agent. Bills, becomes a starter after a while, was originally on like kickoff, and then becomes a left tackle. They started disputing over money. The Eagles said, fuck it, we'll trade for him and pay him, and the rest is history. So sometimes you never know. I mean, you can, the big heavies, probably more likely to find diamonds than like the other skill positions, right? It's kind of just a unique body type if you're able to hold the weight, because I would imagine when he was a tight end, he was not that big. Yeah. He's put on,
and I don't
even
know
if he was a bigger tight end, 275.
Well, I just realized.
So clearly they like him. I mean, he's right on the fringe of being a backup tackle.
Maybe. Hard to know, right? Like Trent, it was near the end. Hard to know.
But he was drafted last season.
Next up. I think, was he drafted or undrafted?
What's his name?
UTSA. Leroy Watson.
Well, Burford's UTSA too, so maybe clearly they like that school. Bronze medal. He was also competed. Was this guy? I think I'm looking at the wrong guy. I'm looking at the guy in archery, Great Britain. Wrong.
I didn't have Matt Pryor on my board, but he's probably next up to be the swing tackle if we're getting into the heavy details. If he wasn't already. And now you're going to get live reps with these guys, so you'll get a better idea whether or not he's a real option as a tackle or not. But all right, you want to hear a few other things to hit you with? Jake Moody, John, 5 of 6 today, good from 33, 38, 48, 53. Ended practice with a 60-yarder that went right down the middle and hit the clock, so it made a big bang. He missed from 43 today. You know which direction he missed?
Hooked.
Yeah. Not bad, but missed it. Had a tailwind, but the 60-yarder was strong. Very strong.
Mayoko tweeted that out. And again, another guy tweeting from practice, like the rules breaker. That get ready for when Kyle on 4th and 1 rolls out the kicker for a 62-yard field goal. Everyone's like, go for it. And then Moody comes out.
Greg says, the fact that you thought Watson was a draft pick kind of puts your credibility regarding the Niners in perspective. All right. I didn't think he was a draft pick. I didn't know if he'd been drafted, which I think is actually, I didn't know what he was until Trent Williams mentioned him the other day. Hadn't even had him on my board until Trent mentioned him the other day.
This is why I turn off the comments, because I'd just get in too many side anger conversations.
All right.
Fucking guy.
You know who doesn't get enough credit for practicing hard? Ray McLeod. I made that note today. Brandon Ayuk, more great catches. Danny Gray. I said yesterday that Danny Gray was frustrated a couple times because he didn't get the ball deep, and that I thought Kyle needed to just throw him anything, and they did that, and then his teammates cheered for him as if they kind of knew he was frustrated. Today they got him more balls. He gets open one-on-one against Womack today, got open, made the play, made a really nice catch a couple really nice catches over the middle, including one from Brandon Allen where he kind of jumped back and made a good catch. He had one ball. You'll like this one, John. One-on-ones, doesn't get a lot of separation. He's coming back towards the quarterback. Pass is coming, and what is the coaching point there, John? Come to the football. Come to the football. Attack the football. That's what he did. Hands out, made the play, DB on his back. I made the note, came back to the ball, and as he's jogging back, your boy, Adam Peters, dabs him up, and I think says, nice job coming back to the football. So, they probably
I had a late one on you, buddy. Keep making plays.
They drafted him in the 7th round, by the way, out of Michigan. But I thought Ronnie Bell he made the one-handed catch yesterday in practice. He is just he seems to kind of belong.
Oh, you're not talking about Danny Gray coming back to the football. You're talking about a different player.
I did mix up my notes here. Hold on one second. I said it was Danny Gray coming back to the ball. It was Ronnie Bell that came back to the ball.
And that's who Adam Peters dapped up.
And that's who Adam Peters dapped up. Everything I said previously about Danny Gray was correct, but I got they bleed together. They bleed together right there on the board, as you can see. So, but everything I said about Danny Gray holds, and then the Ronnie Bell play was him coming back to the ball. So I thought they made an effort. Maybe it was just happenstance. Danny Gray got the ball in intermediate spots today, which is what I think they need to try and do for him, because after every practice, it remains very clear that if the Niners are going to have a shot to hit plays down the sideline, Danny Gray is the one that can get separation. Ray can also get separation. The 49ers do not throw that ball well across the board consistently. They do not place deep balls well consistently. Darnold, I thought, placed an okay one to Ray today. Trey Lance had a bad one to Debo. Yesterday, Brock had a bad one to Debo. But Debo's a hard guy to throw the deep ball to. So, I'd like to see them just get...
I wonder if Ronnie Bell, it wouldn't happen this year because he's not better than him, but in a year is like Ray's replacement. I was looking on... He
is a special teams possibility.
I'm just saying...
Had an ACL.
Well, like Ray ain't going to be on the team for 4 years, right? Probably be a 2-year stint, be one of those guys, couple years here, couple years there. Like you're going to need someone to kind of play that role, and they don't really have it, right? Like who would? Like part of getting Ray is he's a pretty good returner.
Yeah.
And he plays a little bit on offense, but they don't really have. I mean, could a DB do it? I don't know. They don't really have that guy. I'm talking. This is big picture, 2024. Yep. It doesn't necessarily matter because you would say Ronnie Bell's not going to make the team, but he'll be on their practice squad.
Right,
would be my guess.
And I think he's been promising enough. Like he had some drops. Danny had some drops through. One of the main reasons I watch one-on-one drills is to see if guys just catch the ball, and both those guys have had drops in that drill. But I thought both had a good practice today. Dre Greenlaw crushed Christian McCaffrey today. Inappropriate.
Read about it on the internet, guy. I mean, again, I'm finding these things out.
People tweeted it.
Lombardi, and then they got up and hugged and talked it out.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is I wonder if Christian is not bracing for getting fully hit, but Greenlaw fully hit him today.
Oh, it wasn't just like an inadvertent collision. It was a tackle?
It was a tackle, yeah. It was crushed him. Came, second level run for McCaffrey in team, and here comes Greenlaw like a missile. Greenlaw is it appears big on, what's the saying? Ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Yeah, fuck your ass up and then figure it out later.
And apologize afterwards. My bad, man. D. Winters, the rookie out of TCU, like really aggressively punch a football out. I wonder if Trey Greenlaw's rubbing off on him. So
Niners like guys to just haul ass and hit people hard.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like, hey, none of that. I don't know. If somebody said it, I missed it.
Most teams, their D linemen piss the coach off a lot. At any moment, one of the linebackers can create chaos for the Niners, right? I mean, just decleat someone.
Fred had a soft but a tackle in goal line today. Warner.
I would say the goal line situation a little more difficult. Like, I understand the open, the kind of the two-hand touch. These guys are pro athletes, especially the Greenlaws. Like, they've been doing it long enough. They kind of know what they're doing. The goal line, like, what am I supposed to do? Just stop my feet and get run over? I mean, he ain't going slow. Andy goes full live, and the Chiefs do. Would you be opposed to going full live goal line? Most teams don't do it, really, but
I mean, it basically.
What the hell's the difference?
I don't know. I don't know that it. I mean,
you're not like flying over the pile and interacting at the top like Walter Payton stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I'll say like,
though Greenlaw and those guys probably would. I mean, if you told them it's live, you can do that. Wouldn't they do it?
Yes. Well, they kind of do. The one thing that's unfair watching practice, running backs, like the defense gets coached up to punch the ball out. And then eventually like 7 guys have punched you repeatedly when you're 20 yards downfield. Running back pushes back. One of them today hit Isaiah Oliver in the head, and Isaiah Oliver with their hand, like open head slap on the ear. And Isaiah Oliver was like, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I kind of side with the running back. Like they get the shit punched out of their rib cage because everyone's been coached up to get the ball out throughout the play. It's crazy.
Well, it's the Shaquille O'Neal. Like, how many times are they just allowed to bang on me before I can shove back? Like, I get what they're doing, but eventually, like, I'm sorry, I'm going to snap.
Yeah. And that's how fights start. So, all right. On that note, I think we hit the big headlines today. Niners are off on Wednesday, and we'll be. I'm working through grading systems. I didn't abandon throws above replacement, but I think the golf thing really kind of it's a good way to go through 2 of 6 and 5 of 7, whatever. Like, imagine throws are 3-pointers. You're like, Steph was 2 of 6 today, and Clay was 5 of 7. Oh my God. Like, it doesn't tell me anything.
We also taught a good life lesson.
What's that?
If you're at the office right now, and even if the guy does not only not answer to you, you rarely see him, learn the guy's name, because in 7 years, that guy might think you're a scumbag if you just walk by.
The funny thing is, that story, I know that has been shared, like, with a bunch of people over the years. Like, how many people are out there like, that thing about Middlecoff? Doesn't know interns' names. That's what I heard. Just saying.
But it's not talk like that. Like, bad guy, D-bag, scumbag, treats people poorly.
That's right.
Probably type guy that kick a dog. That's just the way I'm perceived in that guy's little world.
Dog?
Never would. Like, I supported Jordan Addison. If you love something,
Jordan Addison, what did he do?
Unconditionally, whether it be a wife, a child, a parent, or an animal, he was going 140 miles an hour at 3 a.m. Did you see that?
When was this?
Last week. A couple weeks ago,
I missed
right before training camp, 140 miles an hour, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Turns out he was completely sober, nothing wrong. Dog emergency, thought the dog was going to die. He was screaming to the vet.
What kind of car was he driving?
Well, I mean, how many cars go 140 miles an hour? I mean, it was, I would imagine, it was something nice. I mean,
yeah,
it wasn't
saying,
like a Ford F-150.
Right. If it's a Ford F-150, it's like no one thinks he's racing. Right? If he's going even make it 125 in a Suburban, it's like, God, where's he going? If you're going fast in a sports car, we just assume you're being a dickhead.
I just fully support sober, unconditional love, whoever that is in your life, and that for many people is a pet. You do anything to save a life. And assuming he's telling, my whole thing was assuming he's telling the truth. Assuming he's telling the truth. Could be, if it's a lie, that's a bad lie. That makes it even worse. But if he's telling the truth, there's a big difference of, like, clearly he was sober, because usually you get a ticket over a certain mile an hour. It's a good question, because once you get pulled over, you're like looking, the dog's huffing and puffing.
Comment says he was in a Lambo Uranus. So that's
yeah, I mean, there's only, I didn't know the car, but there is a small percentage of cars, I think, that you could go that fast.
140.
Yeah, I mean, 140, there's a big difference between like 140 and like 110, right? Think how fast 30 miles an hour is.
Yeah.
The average golf cart's going like 12. I mean, 30's fast. So you do 30 miles an hour over 105,
golf carts
110.
Like are doing like 3.
I know. Well, yeah. Do they have the governor, or are they just like gas?
I don't know. How do I tell?
Well, you can tell if they're gas.
No, it's not. It's not gas.
They're just terrible.
It's a plug-in. It's electric. Yeah, it's electric.
There's no governor. Like if you go the wrong spot, it stops. You got to back up. Or they're just terrible golf carts.
It's not GPS tracked. No.
Yeah, so you're good.
All right. On that note, hit that subscribe button if you're still here. If you're here, there's a bunch of you. Just hit that like button. Just hit it. Just real quick. Just hit the like button. You can. You know what? We accept spite likes. A spite like. Just like a fuck you guys, I'm gonna like it. That's also acceptable. So we appreciate that. Anything else?
No.
Justin Verlander back on the Astros.
Saw that.
Giants almost got him.
Kicked their ass.
What a move by the Mets, by the way. Just sign these guys to trade them for prospects. Actually, kind of a genius way to rebuild. I don't think they meant to, but
backfired in their face. I mean, they were not planning on this.
No, they were not.
I do give them credit. Like this guy, I would say the George Steinbrenners, the Al Davises, once they do that, have much more like, now money was different in their primes, but much more prideful. Like, fuck you guys, I'm not trading these guys. Cohen is much more Belichickian market. Like, this is not working. Boom, trade him.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, let's get rid of the money, even though we're paying. I don't know what they paid a Verlander's deal, but they paid.
They 30 of Scherzer. Or whatever.
Okay, yeah, but let's just get prospects and let's not stay too long here.
Well, I would bet on Ohtani staying, but is there any doubt in your mind that the largest offer will come from that man this offseason?
No. So then he'll take it. He's not going to
take
the biggest offer?
Well, a lot of people think that he likes the West Coast and he would stay with the Angels. Like, it's very easy for him. The Angels are sneaky playing pretty well, I saw.
Yeah, they got to get Mike Trout to the playoffs.
They're like 12-5 or something since the All-Star break.
Inspired baseball.
But what if it's just reported like Steve Cohen has offered Shohei Ohtani 4 years, $700 million? Or, just
the PIP contract, the Saudi Impact Fund.
Let's roll.
Contract.
It's weird. Phil took a lot of shit, and then all of a sudden, once Mbappe's number, LeBron and everyone's like, "I'll just go." It's like, well,
did Mbappe take the $700 million?
No, denied it. I think. No. Would you want to play soccer over there? It's so fucking hot.
All right, later, everybody.